Hi book friends, and welcome to Stories with Jules, my official YouTube channel. This has been a long time coming. I keep telling myself I'm going to sit down and film this video, and I keep putting it off, partly because I've been in other bookish spaces, both on TikTok and IG, and doing short form content. I'm able to cut down myself. My perfectionist heart is happy with how the videos look. And here on YouTube, I want this to feel more organic, more natural, way less editing and cutting, and that seems a little intimidating for me, as well as, I don't know, vulnerable. I do better one-on-one, so I'm having to pretend like you guys are like my best friend right now to make this seem as natural as possible. I really have wanted to start this channel, so I am pushing myself to make this first video, and hopefully y'all like this cozy corner of the internet. I want this channel to be a safe space and to be your new content, your new comfort content creator for all things bookish. I do have notes because, again, I'm a type A girly and I'm also a slow talking millennial. I'm trying to speak faster as I make videos, as I know we all have short attention spans, but it is really hard for me, but I am working on it. A little bit about me: I am the oldest daughter of 7 children. I am also an Aquarius, and so you can expect quirky, awkward, out there things from me just because I can't help myself. I definitely am one of those who, if you want to talk about aliens, let's do it. You want to talk about global warming, I'm all here. You have a conspiracy, bring it to me. I want to hear it. My books will reflect that I like variety, and I have a very wide range as far as like taste in books. I can't stick to just one genre. I would get bored. I think that is reflected in what I selected to kind of show y'all today, to try to categorize myself in books, which was kind of hard to do as I don't, again, stick to one type of book. I like to read fantasy a lot, and whether it is standalone or longer series. I also like to read sci-fi. I also heavily like to read gothic fantasy or romance. I'm always looking for my next gothic book. I try to read at least one a month just to keep it in the rotation, as I really enjoy the themes and the atmosphere and the stories that come from gothic books. I also do read romance more as like palette cleansers between the heavier books that I pick up, but also just for fun. I do a mix of contemporary romance, I would say, as well as just books that have romance. I like to really just say romance and fantasy, or fantasy that has romance in it, as I feel like the subgenre romantasy, no one can really agree on what that means. It's such a new category. I feel like we're all kind of not sure how we want to identify that, like what book falls in that category. And so I just feel more comfortable saying it's a fantasy book that has romance, or it is mostly romance, but it is a romance book that has fantasy elements. I need my books, not all of them, but a lot of them. The ones that I like need the page to turn faster. I need to know what's gonna happen. Those books tend to be books that are fast-paced, high stakes. The castles are crumbling. We are going to war. People are dying. We have really strong, powerful characters, complex characters. You may or may not be rooting for the quote-unquote bad guy or the evil character or the morally gray. I feel like humans are complex, and therefore I need my books to have complexity, is what I tend to say. Without further ado, let's get into some of the books that I have stacked over here, identifying my taste in books and what I like to read. We're going to go ahead and get these out of the way now. but I couldn't make this video without referencing the Shepherd King duology. Rachel Gillig or One Dark Window, Two Twisted Crowns. I love these books. I have read them twice. I read them as they came out, and then I did a reread at the end of 2024. While these were not the first Gothic books that I read, these are some of the most popular and well-known Gothic books that we talk about right now. These were 5 stars. I really did enjoy these. Like I said, I've done a reread. I also think these are good for beginner readers that are wanting to dip their toes into Gothic romance or Gothic themes. It's a smaller world and the magic system is unique but easy to follow. The character dynamic is easy to follow. So I think these are also good for people who have not read as many books, or specifically Gothic books, and they're wanting to try something. I would pick these up. If you were to ask me my taste in books or how I identify, these would always be in that category to help you understand what I like. And then we have more Gothic and more options as far as Gothic romance. So we have first up the trilogy that is the Daughter of Spoken Bone trilogy. These were probably the first Gothic books that I ever read. I don't think I read Gothic books. I think this is the original trilogy, which is partly why I brought it into this video as far as getting to know me. I read these getting back into my reading journey, I want to say in 2021 for the first time. I since have done a reread of the first 2 books. I need to reread the last book. I just haven't fit it in yet, but I do want to. These deal with themes of war and multiple worlds, as well as our 2 main characters. They love each other in every lifetime, as well as forbidden love enemies, as they're different species and they're not supposed to be together. This trilogy has a special place in my heart. I recommend it all the time because I don't see it getting enough hype, but these are set in Prague, our human world, and then they have a non-human world, and they have portals to go back and forth between the worlds. You're dealing with monsters and reincarnation, and it's just one of the most beautiful, complex. I need to read more of this author. This is the only books I have read of hers. I know she has a duology. It's on my TBR. It's just been there for a really long time. This is also something I recommend a lot for Gothic reads if you're wanting to read Gothic but also fantasy, as it is so good. And then another example of Gothic that would be different from the first 2, where they're more fantasy-esque, they're more turning over power and maybe not full-on war in the Shepherd King duology, but you still have a castle that is corrupt and we're trying to navigate that. Both of them are dealing with political intrigue. And then we have the Belladonna trilogy that is not political intrigue and not really war. This is definitely more Gothic themes as far as like haunted manors and ghosts and dealing with entities such as death, the afterlife, magic in that regard. So these are more that haunted Gothic that you think of, and they are so beautiful. I love these books. I would say Belladonna is probably my favorite out of all 3 books. I really like the love story in book 1. Book 2 to me dragged a little bit and I did not enjoy as much. It's probably my least favorite of the 3, even though I do really like this cover. And then book 3, which is also stunning. I love the second chance romance that is in this book. I love how the story kind of wraps up. How do I explain this? I really did enjoy them. I think what I'm trying to say is they're not as gripping or fast-paced, and you're enjoying them more for the atmosphere and the story. Now that we've had some examples of gothic, I want to highlight other authors that have kind of shaped me as a reader and that I find myself recommending. If you follow me on any of my other platforms, you know I talk about this author all the time and I recommend their books all the time. They are probably my favorite author if I had to pick, even though that's really hard to say. Darker Shades of Magic were the first books of theirs that I read by V.E. Schwab. They have such a unique writing style that while you know it is their work and it's definitely their language of writing, all of their books are so uniquely done. They're not copy-paste and they're not the same as far as feeling repetitive, and I love that. I love that The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue is nothing like Darker Shades of Magic, and yet if you hadn't told me, I would know that the same author wrote it. Another reason I wanted to highlight V.E. Schwab is because V.E. Schwab is a queer author, as well as putting queer representation in her books. All of their books, I think, there is queer representation, which is important to me as I am queer, and so I like to read and highlight authors that have it in their books naturally and organically, with it being regular fantasy or regular books. And I am so glad that V.E. Schwab is getting the hype and the attention that they deserve. I read these back in 2021 or 2022, early on in my reading journey as far as falling in love with reading. My brother had actually recommended them. If you're wanting easier magic and you're trying to dip your toes into fantasy, this would be one I would recommend to people, as this is easy to follow, just like One Dark Window, but it's not gothic. Okay, and then we have 3 more authors that I thought I would briefly highlight. One being Ava Reed. I love Ava Reed, a dystopian YA background, and the darker themes that come with dystopian books. It's also queer, but Ava writes some of the most beautiful work. I love her writing style. I have read almost all of Ava's work at this point. This would definitely be, if you want to know my taste, she would be one of them. Another one would be Adrienne Young. I love her work. I recommend her all the time. She has some of the most lush, descriptive, immersive writing that I have ever read as a reader. You feel like you are in these books with these characters. I cannot articulate well enough how these books come to life. Every time she has a new book come out, I read it. I've also read The Unmaking of June Farrow. I've read her Fable trilogy, as well as A Sea of Unspoken Things that came out earlier this year. All of her books just grip you from the beginning. Most of her books have a mystery or a subplot mystery, and I love that she writes standalone or duologies to break up some of the bigger series that I tend to read. Then a new to me author this year would be Pierce Brown. Red Rising has been on my TBR since 2021. I got it for Christmas in 2024. I got all the hardcovers here behind me. I am currently on Dark Age. This has gripped me and not let me go. I have cried, I have been stressed, I have stayed up late. I read Red Rising and then immediately jumped into Golden Sun and read those in the same month, and then since then I've done a book a month, more than anything because of the emotional impact, or should I say emotional damage, that these books do. And they're big books, they're not short books, and so between the page count and the topics and themes in the books, I just have to take it in chunks. I purposely put this off as well, as I know the last book is coming out soon, and there had been talk about it coming out this year, and I was hoping starting this year I wouldn't have to wait as long for book 7 like the rest of you have been. I've seen how you've been, and I didn't want to be waiting, and now it looks like we're not getting it until next year, and I'm like, well dang, this is sci-fi. This is definitely a castle crumbling, but in space. The themes and the emotions emotional impact and the characters as well as the humor in these books, I have such a good time. I tend to read mostly books written by women as well as BIPOC authors by a white male, and enjoying it and loving it as much as I have has actually been really, I don't know, healing for me in a way that I like his work as much as I do. I received The Court of Thorns and Roses as a birthday gift from one of my siblings. This series overall is what got me back into reading, or really what got me into fantasy. And I know that so many people say that, and I am not alone in saying that. It just emotionally impacts us and helps us remember why we liked reading as children. We have been waiting for book 6 or book 5 if you don't count the novella for way too long. Crescent City is great, but can we get back to this? It really helped me fall in love with reading. Epic war scenes, the epic love scenes, the magic. I read ACOTAR, like I said, before Throne of Glass. Throne of Glass I actually didn't even read until 23 and 24. So there was quite a length of time. I actually read Crescent City, book 1 and 2, before Throne of Glass. Because Throne of Glass had such a hype as well as so many books, I just wasn't sure if it was going to be for me. I definitely get intimidated by page count. As throughout my reading journey, I have slowly been more confident and feeling like I'm ready to conquer bigger series and bigger books in general. Not that this is a short series, but I don't know, in my mind it just feels more digestible. So if you couldn't tell, I like books with emotional impact or emotional damage. I really like books that have gods or like higher beings or entities in some way. I'm not really sure why. I do know why. I want them to be a god. I want my main characters to be as strong as possible, and if they're not, that they're taking down the thing that is as strong as possible. I really resonate, and I really like books where we have a really strong players on the board. Okay, I thought we could talk a little bit about what you could expect on this channel and how I'm wanting to move forward outside of introducing myself today. I'm hoping to post every other week, and that is something that I want y'all to be able to count on and know that when you come here, there's going to be a video ready for you. I also think it will be good for me to get used to doing this longer setting and chatting with you guys before I try to make it weekly or a multiple week thing. As far as what you can expect here, do a bookshelf tour. While I have this, I have another set up over here beside me, as well as in our main room in the house we have another bookshelf. So I want to show y'all all of the physical books that I own, even though I don't really have enough bookshelves to hold them all yet, so it's not going to be the most aesthetic video. And then you can also expect reading vlogs, as well as picking my TBR or how I plan what I'm going to read, as well as just other books that I enjoy. This is my 5th year reading, so I thought I might do how I have read consistently, how I pick the books that I do, what I do when I think I'm getting into a reading slump. That is another video I would like to make, is how I set my list of books for this year, as well as how many books I'm trying to read. I also might do some unrelated book content, just more life content, but I haven't really decided yet. I have so much book content to share with you guys that that's not going to be coming probably anytime soon, except in the form of longer vlogs. In checking my notes a little bit more about me, I have been with my partner for 10 years and we live in Oklahoma. We have 3 huskies that you see in my shorter form content on other channels. I thought I would also quickly touch on my format of reading books. I would say I do at least 75%, if not more like 85% of reading through audiobooks and through the library. As far as Hoopla and Libby, I don't physically go to the library a lot. I want to get better at that. and utilizing my physical library, as I know that that is important. But I would say I use my actual library apps almost every day. I use them heavily. I do fill in with Audible and Kindle Unlimited. That is something new. I got a Kindle for Christmas, and that has been a game changer as well. Before that, I was just using Libby on my and Kindle Unlimited, sometimes not religiously though, just if there was a specific book I wanted to read on my iPad. Got a Kindle Unlimited account, and Audible, as when you download a book from Kindle Unlimited, that reduces the price that you can get it on Audible quite a bit most of the time. Instead of it being like, I don't know, $20 for Audible, it now might be $3 on Audible, separate from getting the 1 credit a month through Audible. And I really didn't want to pay for Audible monthly. I haven't all these years, but I realized that, at least for me, I think it's this way for y'all too, the books on Audible are not through my library, and there are books that I really want to listen to them and not physically read them, and I hear the audiobooks are superb exclusively on Audible. And so for now, I do pay for that, and I do pay for KU. But outside of that, I don't buy a lot of physical books throughout the year. I would say I've pre-ordered 3 books for the year so far. Really, it's definitely less than 10 a year. I do physically read books. I do read on my Kindle physically as well. And so if I am physically reading, I also tend to do immersive, which I came to learn, like, I don't know, back in 2023, I found out about immersive reading, where you listen and read at the same time, and I love that. To finish up this video, I thought I would show y'all some books that are on my TBR, my physical TBR, that I am hoping to get to in the near future, either this year or within the next year, so early in 2026, and kind of go through them to further kind of show my taste in books and, you know, if you would like this page or not. To quickly go through, I do have the Sword of Kaigen. I cannot wait to read this. I'm hoping to read this later in the year, in the colder months, but before 2026. I also have When the Moon Hatched. Book 2 comes out later this year, and I was putting off reading this until we have book 2. I tend to not love to jump into series right off the bat. I will do it, however, it is not my preferred method, especially with cliffhangers. I really want to have the next book available, so I want at least 2 books to get into the story, because a lot of times with these bigger books, book 1 is a lot of world building, and the actual story doesn't necessarily take off until book 2. So anyways, book 1 of When the Moon Hatched is on my physical TBR, but I'm going to wait to read it until book 2 comes out. And then I know that I don't look it, but I actually have Chickasaw in me, and I am First American or Native American from my dad's side, and this is supposed to be an indigenous main character written by an indigenous author, and I also just hear this series is really good, and so I am hoping to get into this series soon, A Broken Blade. I believe there are 4 books, and it's completed, which I like, and I only have the first book so far, but the other 3 are on my wish list to have soon. Another trilogy that has been on my TBR for a long time is City of Brass. I physically got the books for my birthday this year, so I haven't physically had them, but they've been on my want to reads for years and years, and I really want to get into this magic system and see what the hype is about, as I hear that people really love this. And then last up is Malice and the Bloodsworn Saga trilogy. Both of his works, both of his trilogies, which I think this is 4 books, but both of his works I want to get into soon. I actually am supposed to read Malice, this series, later this year, and I have the first 2 books. The other 2 books are still on my wish list, but I do at least have this one and book 2. I hear that these are like Vikings, and he has really strong FMCs and main characters, and I just hear such great things about both of these worlds, and I cannot wait to read them. If you made it this far, thanks so much for being here. I know this video was longer. Not all of my long form content will be this long. I am just overly thorough and I knew that this first video was going to be hefty. Let me know in the comments videos you would like to see here or topics you would like me to cover or any questions you have. As I am building out long form content, I would love ideas and input as far as what you would like to see from me that I might not have time to do on my shorter videos. I would really appreciate if you wanted to subscribe, keep coming back to the bookish space that is here, and seeing additional videos. Again, thanks so much for watching, and I will be back soon.